very warm welcome to Daily Dispatch powered by HSBC. I'm Priya Sheth, and joining me on this very interesting conversation is Madhu Shalini Iyer from Rocketship.vc. Thank you very much, Madhu, for joining us today on the Daily Dispatch. I want to begin by talking to you about the kind of activity and the momentum in the whole startup ecosystem. Rocketship has been actively investing across the board. Tell us a little bit about what your sense is, when you look at the startup activity in India.
No, it's a wonderful pleasure to be joining you here, Priya. We've been very bullish. Rocketship is a data-driven story. We are a venture capital fund with a twist. We have the largest startup database activity in the world. We are in the Valley and we are pretty agnostic worldwide investors. And India was something that we chanced upon. We were, when we started, we wanted to invest in the Valley and in the US. And in 2015-16, we started seeing something which was really sort of fantastic in India. We started seeing a lot of activity, and then we went back and saw that it was highly correlated with geo. And that's when our interest got piqued. We were finding more and more companies in India, and we've leaned in and we've never looked back. Our fund one, we invested in Moglix, in No Broker, in Mad Street, then in Locus, in a bunch of others in India. And fund two has just sort of been, a deep double down on India with Khata Book and Apna and FamPay and Jar and Raise and and Kutumb and just a whole host of B2B, B2C, companies, and we've just seen incredible founders building very, very thoughtful companies, and we've also sort of ridden the wave of just when we saw India early on to last 2 years when India has just become the world's sort of sweetheart, where there's a lot of global investment, where there's a lot of, great amount of global fundraise activity that's happened in India with great valuations and such. And now to when the market is, in a phase where there's a lot of correction. And this is inevitable because of whatever is happening around the world. But we're still very, very bullish on India.
Tell us a little bit about what the kind of strategy is going to be for the Indian market in 2022, because I believe you did raise a fund. You're planning a lot of investments out of that fund. How much of that is going to be allocated towards India, and are the sectors that are some of your favorites?
Totally. I think that because we are data driven and because our algorithms are bottoms up, we don't have a juxtaposition of sector or region. India is still showing up very heavily on our screens. And we see all kinds of companies. We are very, very, so our strategy is always been the best, comes first, as sort of identified by our screens. India, to your point, is still really very hot in our screens and in our algorithms, which is reflective of what's going on in the world. In terms of what we see, we are seeing a lot of fintech activity. Embedded finance, BNPL, just a whole host of things that, wealth management. But yeah, India fintech, India B2B, there are some B2C players, e-commerce. It's just a whole host of things. But I would say that fintech is, sort of top of mind as I see our screens right now.
Right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the whole funding environment at this point in time. Where we're seeing so much so much cash in the market at this point in time. We're seeing fundraisers happening. We're seeing so many, valuations, unicorns being created in India. What's your sense on the whole situation? Do you think that there is a lot of cash, chasing startups, and is that the reason why valuations are so high?
So I think the valuations have been very, very high until now. Hopefully for the best startups that have got that have a lot of value creation story, that's going to continue. but we're seeing some corrections across the board. In the Valley, for example, the later stage deals are getting squeezed in, and everywhere that's going to happen. Even the earlier stage Series A's and B's, the valuations are coming down. I don't think anywhere in the world is going to be impervious to the market correction. And that, I think, is going to hit India as well. And these are all just sort of, obviously thoughts. There is some market data to validate what's going on in the ground in terms of the valuation corrections in these different, across all stages, the Series A's and B's and the later stages for sure. Historically, what happens usually in times of these corrections is the later stage definitely has a valuation correction. And the earlier stages are the ones that thrive, commensurately. And when I say thrive, I mean commensurately to whatever is going on. But I think, we are seeing this correction all across. Having said that, I do think that there is going to be a lot of appetite for the companies and the startups that are doing really well and that have a lot of value creation, in terms of story of value creation. They are going to see a lot of raise before things take a turn for the I wouldn't say worse, but things take a turn to correct themselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. $100 million is what you had raised a couple of months ago. How much of that has been deployed so far? Are you in the process of raising another round of funding to be able to deploy into more startups?
So we are, we've raised 2 funds and we are raising the 3rd fund. And we are, we've always been a global fund. Our strategy is global. Our strategy is, the best startups that are really sort of at their inflection point, catching them very early because of our data and identifying them and doubling down on them. We are excited about the emerging markets and especially India. We are also sort of seeing a lot of, so there is still continues to be activity in India, in Southeast Asia, in LATAM, in Africa, in MENA. Of course, in the Valley and US and across, but in emerging markets for sure. And India is leading that pack even now. We are very bullish. We plan to invest. We don't really have a particular strategy of sort of, divvying up a pie to say 50% or 60% India and emerging markets versus the developed world. We don't really have a strategy. We're going to go where the algorithms take us. And that algorithm is really reflective of what's going on in the world. So, ours is a very reactive fund. And I would say really a proactive and an aggressive fund that kind of likes to stay ahead of the market and see what's going on and invest in the best across the world.
All right, Madhu, thanks so much for your valuable insights and for sharing with us the kind of momentum that's happening in the startup ecosystem. So thanks so much for your time and thank you so much for joining us today on the Daily Dispatch.